if you connect the shoulder point here and the shoulder point here, it's not straight. She has a slight little diagonal there, and that makes the world's difference. Hello, welcome to Professional Photographer Ranked Met Gala 2021 Poses from Worst to Best. What am I considering when it comes to ranking and critiquing these poses? One, how well they're using their different joints and everything to create a beautiful pose. Second, expression. Third, how comfortable are they in the pose? At the end of the day, poses shouldn't look like a pose. A beautiful and an elegant pose should look natural. At the end of the day, posing is communicating with our body. So putting all of that into consideration, I put together my top 20 poses from Met Gala 2021, and let's get into number 20. Now coming in at the 20th spot is Julia Garner. I wanted this spot to hopefully represent where a lot of us are at if we're not used to being in front of the camera. Julia is looking very symmetrical. It doesn't kind of seem like she's knowing exactly what she's doing with her hands there. Symmetrical poses can sometimes, especially when our body is straight, can look a little eerie, a little bit creepy, just because when we just move as humans, there's not too many times where we look symmetrical. When I think of straight body, symmetrical arms, I think of Slender Man. Not to necessarily avoid symmetry, but that's what I'm feeling from this pose from Julia, just being like this. And as we go into the next steps, you will see how we can do better in using our posing points. Going into number 19, we have Rosé, and oh my gosh, please, Rosé fans, do not come after me. I'm a fellow Korean that love my fellow Koreans too. I'm not here to put her down, right? We're here to talk about the pose, okay? Let's talk about this. The reason why Rosé is ahead of Julia is because she did one thing great, and that's putting her foot out. So she went from Julia being here to now Rosé going like this. At least she's not straight up like that. She is at least a little bit relaxed at the foot. But that's the only thing that changed. Her arms changed a little bit from here, and then her legs changed, which is the plus, but the hands just went like this, and then she actually slouched down just a little bit. The hips didn't move, the arms, the elbows, all the posing points didn't move. The slouch, let's talk about the slouch real quick. Slouching isn't bad. I think in school and high school photos and things like that, we're taught to sit like this, and anything else is bad. We hear mom in the background, you know, like straighten your back and all that stuff. Slouching isn't bad. That's not the point I'm trying to say here. But with doing nothing but staying straight and then just slouching down, I don't think works in Rosé's favor. Going to number 18, Kid Cudi. I laugh because this is the pose we see a lot of guys do. If they have to take a photo, this is the pose that they do. Boom. Instantly they think it's cool, it's laid back, and like it kind of works. I mean, like you get to lean back, you get to relax, so that's one plus. But I place it at 18 simply because it's a little too overdone, it's a little too basic. You know, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, David, like there's not a lot of poses guys can do. Hold up, that's not true. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it more. So let's go on to number 17. Number 17, Addison Rae. Addison, my fellow TikToker. You are here because of the same reason Kid Cudi is at number 18. You are here because, I don't know why I'm all of a sudden just addressing Addison Rae in first person. Addison, I hope you're not watching this. You look great, you really do. But Addison is looking really simple. Like it's a very simple pose, and look, I'm not trying to say that a great pose should be extravagant, it should be all like out there doing something crazy, but there is a difference between just subtle changes and then also just like not doing much. It almost feels like she's just kind of standing there. Addison, I know you can do a little bit more, and it just seems too simple, too plain, too basic. Going into number 16, Zoe. I'm not even gonna try. This I have a bit more to say. Okay. For people who follow my content just a little bit more, it's funny because some people say, oh my gosh, that's the David Sub pose. It is not, it is, please, do not like copyright poses or things like that. Posing, again, is body language. We've been communicating, we've been posing our entire lives, people. With that being said, yes, I kind of teach this pose a lot. I love this pose because it really works for almost everyone. There's not a single client I haven't used this pose for. Everything is working in our favors to create multiple, beautiful, elegant, soft shapes. But it's sort of like hard to execute if you're just seeing it as taking IKEA instructions, like step 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're just like, it just feels like you're taking a dance instruction, like left, right, versus like left, right, right? Like you have to have heart and soul into it. That's why earlier on I talked about how one of the elements that I'm taking into consideration is how comfortable you're sitting into the pose, how confident you are, putting the heart and soul into it and feeling the pose, right? It's kind of like singing and dancing. You can do it well technically, but you gotta put the sort of soul behind it, and that's the same concept with this. All right, number 15, Quan Smith. You know, if you compare it to Kid Cudi's pose, it's not so different. I want to highlight again that good poses doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Good poses should help you feel at ease. It shouldn't feel like a pose. So many times, simple poses are enough. Essentially, all Laquan did was he went from just standing, if this is just standing still, he just relaxed into it. And if you're a guy watching this and you're like, oh, David, how do I pose like a dude? The simplest answer I can give is, yeah, you don't want to kick your hip out like this if you don't want to create these like soft, elegant shapes, but you also don't want to just stand still on both your feet. So what Laquan is doing, he stepped back just a little bit, he's got his lean back just a little bit, and he's got his arm relaxing like this. And he's got sort of like this swagger to it already, and because he feels comfortable in it. He feels confident in that simple pose, and that goes a long way. Going into number 14, Emma Chamberlain and Suni Liu. I put both of them, Emma and Suni, together because essentially it's the same pose. Let's talk about why they made it so far into number 14 is because they're trying. It takes effort, and I applaud them for doing something more than just standing there. So I love the effort, but going back to what I said about taking IKEA instructions, it just kind of seems like someone was there telling them, hey, just go for this pose right here. Maybe they show them like this. With all that going on, with all the anxiety and stress, maybe Emma and Suni just took this and this to remember. That's why it just looks like from this to this. When they could work the hip just a little bit more, they could bring up the shoulder point just a little bit more, and they could do something else with this hand, I don't know. That's again what I mean. It just feels like they weren't used to doing the pose. Maybe they were just taught right before the event, hey, just like this is gonna be really simple to do and easy to memorize. So going on to number 13, Olivia Rodrigo. It's almost like a 13.5. It's a little bit like half better than Emma and Suni. The reason I really wanted to put Olivia here is to show you how the littlest of things make a big difference. Right off the bat, she feels a little bit more powerful. She feels a little bit more confident in the pose. There's a little bit more sass. She's like, oh yeah, I'm ready to work this camera. That's the feeling. Don't even look into the technical aspect. It's kind of like Laquan, like it's swagger. You feel that already. The technical part that I love, the part where I said the littlest of tweaks, is where she placed her hand on her hip. So if we look at Emma placed her hand on the widest part of our hips, which is the bone right here, like right here. If you look at Olivia's hand placement, it's actually not on the hip. It goes a lot higher up to here, which lets her create, again, accentuate the inner part of that curve that goes in versus the wider part. Going on to number 12, Tessa Thompson. I liked Tessa here because she was trying something new. I want to give a lot of points and respect to people who go out of the norm, of the basic. The only thing I would change is her hat. Tessa was one of the first few people that we looked at where she had a prop. I love having things like hats because it gives us more ideas for our poses. I think rather than just having it down, maybe something like right over here, maybe like putting it on, or maybe like having it here, would have been really cool to see. Number 11, Kim Kardashian. Oh boy, I have seen so much content about this outfit. Okay, it's not about the outfit. I placed Kim over here because she's utilizing her space, the surroundings. She's utilizing the steps as sort of a posing tool. What that helps her do in shaping her body is that when we take a step up, instead of just manually kicking our hip out, the step is letting us kick that hip out already. It's already helping and aiding in that. It really shapes our booty over here. So standing versus step up. Standing, step up. Kim definitely could have done more. Her arms are just straight and her shoulder also just straight. If she did something more creative with her hand or something even a little subtle from straight arm to little touch like that, I would have placed her maybe a little bit higher. Going into number 10, Simu Liu. Simu Liu's pose is essentially one more step up from Quan. What did Quan do before? He was just right here, relaxed. But then now, Simu Liu took it a step further and he was like, yo, I'm gonna be comfortable by holding onto my jacket. He has that extended leg a little bit. He doesn't look too stiff because he's relaxing his weight onto his back leg. And then he's also doing something with his hands. Guys, especially for anyone, but for guys, because I always get so much inquiry about that. They're like, what are my hands? What do you normally do with your hands? Do things that you would typically do with your hands, whether it's adjusting your jacket, adjusting your pants. And Simu Liu's pose right here is a classic example of doing that. He has his other hands in his pocket. Honestly, hands in the pocket is my go-to. Simple, it's classic, it works. Going into number 9, Storm Reid. I love Storm's pose here because before really going into it, it looks so simply done. It looks so effortless and it goes a far way. If you think about it, the pose that Storm is doing isn't the simplest pose, but she's making it look effortless because she's sitting into it. She's comfortable in it. First of all, she's working with the dress. There's a part over here which naturally allows Storm to show off her beautiful legs here. So she's extending that, creating depth in this two-dimensional photo, from going from that to turning to the side just a little bit and showing off her legs. She's also using the outfit for inspiration again, going back to Simu Liu and talking about doing things with your hand you naturally would do. She has her hand a little bit on the bow of her dress. That's something that we have to tie. Maybe, I'm pretty sure she didn't tie it herself, but it looks natural because she's doing something with her hands. That's something you naturally would do. You would tie the bow. If you connect the shoulder point here and the shoulder point here, it's not straight. She has a slight little diagonal there, and that makes the world's difference. And also her head tilt. Slight little tilt over here that makes it look so natural. This is why high school portraits always feel so like unnatural. We're just like haul straight up as much as we can. But if you were to just relax into it and go for a head tilt, head tilt, head tilt, like it becomes more natural. Going into number 8, Paloma. Oh my gosh. Remember we talked a lot about the hands, the iconic hands on the hip pose. This is the first one where someone is actually putting the heart and the soul and the confidence really into the pose, right? The pose, again, if you just technically do it, it's just an IKEA instruction. But you have to be the one that owns up to the pose. You have to bring the confidence into the pose. You have to almost like inject it, right? You have to put it in there. When you do hands on the hip, you should feel powerful. It shouldn't just be like, oh, yeah, like, what do they always do? Hands on the hip, yeah, right? Like you should feel a certain way when you do a pose, and you should own whatever that makes you feel and like amplify it as much as you can. And you can amplify it by kicking your hip out more. You can amplify it by raising your chin up more if you want to be more badass. In this case, Paloma, she didn't chin up, she went down. And that's a very different feeling. If you do this with me at home too, like whether you're standing up, you're sitting down, lying down, if you were to look at a certain point, right? Imagine you're staring at someone and you went chin up, you almost feel like you're like looking down on someone. You feel kind of cool. You're like, who are you, right? And then if you switch to downward, it's kind of like, okay, who are you? You know, it should feel very different. So I love that about Paloma. She's just absolutely owning her pose. Going into number 7. Okay, so Saweetie is the first one to not use the steps, because that was Kim K, at least in this ranking. She's the first one to sort of like utilize a back shot like that. She's popping off that booty right here. She's showing off the booty. And here's a really quick thing that you probably didn't notice, because she's doing it effortlessly. Her arm right here isn't just straight. Many people, they would be like, oh, okay, David said like turn around and look back and show off the booty. They're gonna be like this. But Saweetie, she's bringing the hand up just a little bit, and then the elbow is bringing it back. And that helps accentuate that shape that's going on here versus just straight line while there's these beautiful lines going on. You want to go along with all the other lines that are happening. Number 6 is Imaan? Miss Hammam. You're absolutely stunning. Holy crap. This is how the pose is done. Remember that pose I was talking about earlier on about Zoe? Miss Hammam is showing us how it's done. Look at her go. She's going boom. She's even crossing over even more, going from here, that shape that goes like this, to boom. And she's working that hand. It's not too front. It's also not hidden back over here like a floating hand. It's almost, and it's also her hand doesn't come around like this, so it's like a little handbag or something. She's really using her arm and to show off the hips. She's not coming up too much, so it looks a little bit more effortless. She's not doing it too far. She knows where to stop because it feels good, and this one is just simply coming up to also go with that shape and not just being straight. I would change possibly the shoulder just a little bit, but she's absolutely owning it. She's stunning. Going into number 5, Jackie. Jackie, I love this. I already talked about this on my TikTok and Instagram. There's a lot of things happening here. This is one of those poses where there's a lot of things happening. First thing, the legs, the foundation. She's going like this, and then she's extending it by pointing her feet. It's elongating her legs. She's pointing and she's showing off the beautiful legs. It works with the dress too. Your outfit sometimes should influence the pose that you do so you can show off the outfit at the same time while helping you. She has this hand over here. I think she could have gone up just a little bit more, but I love it. This hand is just perched on like this, almost like she's carrying a handbag. There's this sass to that already. So the only thing that I changed here is to triple down on that sass. Her head tilt is a little too straight. I think she just needed a little tilt this way or a little tilt this way. Going into number 4 is Kendall Jenner. If you technically look at the pose and what's moving, there's not a lot moving, but it's again that case of she's feeling it. She's looking amazing. I think she knows she doesn't have to do a lot. She understands that, and then she models. She understands that she doesn't have to do a lot. It's about the confidence, what's sort of the aura that's coming off of her. Essentially what she's doing, boom, big leg up like this. That's sort of like the statement piece. If we're talking like almost like fashion, it's a statement piece. And the other thing that she's very subtly doing is this arm isn't just straight again. It's a very, very subtle elbow up right over here. And another key point is her head tilt is a very, very decisive chin down. It makes the biggest difference. If she had her chin up just a little bit, that's a different look. If she had it neutral, it just wouldn't complete the pose. For something simple, she needed a very striking look, and she did it, and it all came together. She looks amazing. Going into number 3, Adrian Brody. I don't even know. I feel like I don't even need to say this. Like, I feel like these top 3, I don't need to change anything. Like I said, at the end of the day, what do we feel when we see the pose? It doesn't look posed. It almost looks like a movement. Not that every great poses should look like a movement, but if it's so naturally done, it doesn't look like a pose. It almost looks like he's taking a step forward. He's almost in like a beginning of a laugh or finishing a laugh. His hand is at a very natural place. I laugh with my hand on my stomach when I'm laughing. It's very natural human like movement and behavior. There's a great look on him. He has his one shoulder dropped. So guys, again, you don't have to just stick to being a rectangle. You can move around just a little bit, drop the shoulder just a little bit. It still creates these interesting shapes. Going into number 2, Joan Smalls. Oh my gosh, y'all. Yo, I don't, seriously, like, you should look at that photo and you should be feeling the same thing. You're like, damn, she's killing it. She's absolutely slaying it. But let's break it down, let's break it down. She was the first one to extend this leg but not do it straight. She used her knee to bring it in. Look at that. Bring it in. It's creating another shape there. The more you do it with your hands, the more bold you have to be. So I give her a lot of points for that, and it works for her because she's being bold while she's feeling bold at the same time and conveying that. The only thing I would change maybe is his hand just a little bit, but honestly, she's freaking stunning. She's being so badass. I love that. And the chin down just a little bit right here is all she needed. All right, last but not least, drum roll please. Number 1 spot, Lil Nas X. Let's go. Let's just take a moment. Like, how does this make you feel? Like, what do you see? It literally feels like a Cinderella moment. Cinderella was running down, and then she was like, and you caught a glimpse of that moment. The reason why Lil Nas has this number 1 spot is because he's working the different angles. He's not just thinking about the front. He's thinking about showing off a different part, a different side. We're always used to taking photos like this, so he's breaking out of the box, he's doing something different. He knows he has a great figure, he wants to show it off. He's doing something technically a little bit more difficult, at the same time, looking like he's Cinderella running down the steps and giving you a little glimpse before he runs away. So that's what I love about Lil Nas X's pose. When we're technically speaking about it, this foot is out while the knee's up, and he's kicking the booty back while arching the back, and also has his hands here at the same time, finishing it off with a very like casual, beautiful, stunning look back at the camera. That's not easy to do, especially again, if you're in this setting where you have a couple of seconds to give to the photographer. I love this photo of Lil Nas, I love this pose, beautiful outfit as well. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching this rating the Met Gala 2021 pose with a professional photographer. If you want to learn more about the fundamentals of the foundation of what I talked about today, check out some of these other videos I've done on teaching about posing. I do a lot of that. Like, share, comment, and show me some love, and I'll show you some love back, you know what I mean? Anyway, love you all. I'll see you and catch you on the next video. Bye.